Look at yourself for a moment. Really look. Are you quietly questioning the chaos around you? Noticing how the loudest, most reckless people seem to rise while those with wisdom and insight stay in the shadows? Do you sometimes feel invisible in a world that seems to reward stupidity, arrogance, and cruelty? If so, you are not alone, and yet the truth is far more unsettling than you think. We live in a society that tells us intelligence is power, yet everywhere we look, the most foolish people are the ones shaping our lives. They dominate headlines, command attention, and steer nations. They convince us that chaos is order, that ignorance is confidence, and that brashness equals competence. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The reason they succeed is not despite their foolishness, it is because of it. History is filled with this paradox. Think of the leaders who rose in times of crisis, not the thoughtful, cautious philosophers, but the brash demagogues who manipulated fear and desire. Machiavelli observed this over 500 years ago. Rulers are often chosen not for their virtue, but for their boldness, for their ability to seize power while the wise hesitate. Nietzsche, centuries later, warned that the intelligent are cursed in a world built for the complacent. He said, "The higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly." And he was right. Smart people are burdened by foresight. They see consequences, imagine futures, and feel the weight of choices. Fools are unburdened. They act, they dominate, they capture the world without thinking twice. The irony is brutal. Intelligence becomes a handicap when the system itself rewards the absence of reflection. Let me tell you a story. Imagine a small town in the 1920s. A brilliant, cautious scientist works tirelessly, developing a technology that could improve lives. Meanwhile, a reckless, charismatic entrepreneur spreads bold promises, ignoring facts, appealing to fear and desire. Within months, the town's leaders side with the charlatan. The scientist watches helplessly as brilliance loses to bluster. This is not just a story, it is the story of almost every society, over and over again. History repeats because humans are drawn to spectacle over substance. Psychology gives us insight into this phenomenon. The Dunning-Kruger effect explains why the least competent often overestimate themselves. They act with confidence, while the truly competent hesitate, aware of the unknowns. Combine this with society's love of noise, attention, and instant gratification, and you have a perfect storm. A world where the loud, reckless, and shallow rise, while the wise shrink into irrelevance. But here's another twist. The problem isn't just external, it's inside us. We are complicit when we ignore nuance, follow charisma over reason, and reward certainty over curiosity. Every time we choose a shortcut, cheer a convenient lie, or dismiss a thoughtful critique, we make the fool's rise inevitable. The tragedy is not only that foolishness prevails, it is that we participate in its triumph.
Even Plato understood this tension. In the Republic, he warned that democracies often fall because people prefer leaders who flatter and entertain, not those who challenge and teach. He described a cycle where society rewards ignorance and the clever exploit it. Nietzsche called it the inversion of values. Virtues like caution, empathy, and foresight are scorned, while traits like audacity, deception, and spectacle dominate. And yet there is hope, if we dare to see clearly. To resist is not merely to be smarter than others. It is to embrace the loneliness that comes with insight, to act with integrity even when it offers no applause, and to cultivate depth in a world that adores the shallow. Wisdom does not always lead to power, but it does lead to freedom. the freedom to see the world as it is, to make choices that matter, and to preserve your soul in the face of absurdity. Consider Bonhoeffer, who lived under tyranny. He recognized that compliance with folly is a silent participation in evil. His courage was not born from arrogance, but from clarity. He saw the stakes, understood the consequences, and chose action despite the odds. That is the path the wise must walk. Dangerous, lonely, but profoundly human. The uncomfortable truth is this: society will always elevate fools, because it is built to prefer spectacle over substance. But the tragedy becomes personal only if you allow it. If you are intelligent, reflective, or thoughtful, you are at a crossroads. Conform and be seduced by the shallow triumphs, or resist and embrace the painful clarity of seeing the world as it truly is. Most never choose the latter, not because it is impossible, but because it demands a kind of courage few possess. Ask yourself, how many times have you silenced your insights, swallowed your warnings, or withheld your creativity because it didn't seem worth it in a world that celebrates brashness over brilliance? How often have you compromised your intellect for comfort, your values for approval, your conscience for survival? This is the subtle tragedy of living among fools. We are tempted to join them, even when we know better. And yet there is a paradoxical beauty in this struggle. While fools may rise, the wise endure. While noise dominates, clarity persists. While society collapses into spectacle, meaning is quietly preserved by those who see, who question, who refuse to participate in the theater of ignorance. There is a resilience in truth, a stubbornness in wisdom, a quiet power in knowing that the world can be absurd and choosing to act anyway. So here is the final uncomfortable reflection. The world is not made to reward you, and it may never appreciate your insight. But the value of your intelligence, your empathy, your clarity, is not measured by applause. It is measured by your courage to maintain it in a society designed to squander it. To live wisely in a world ruled by fools is a lonely path, but it is the only path that leads to freedom.
And perhaps, paradoxically, that is the ultimate victory. Not to dominate, not to be seen, not to rise above, but to remain true, to see clearly, and to act with integrity when most around you cannot or will not. Remember, the louder the world celebrates foolishness, the more precious your insight becomes. The more chaos prevails, the more meaningful your clarity. And the higher the fools rise, the closer you are to the rarest kind of triumph, the triumph of being fully awake in a world asleep. So, ask yourself tonight, will you dim your light to blend in, or will you burn